evening and warm welcome to all to the webinar of Thrissur Management Association on remastering digital relationship with the customers. Our beloved chief guest, Engineer Jag Krishnan, Vice President and Chief Digital Officer, Bose Corporation USA, Senior Vice President, Dr. V.M. Xavier, Vice President, Engineer Vinod Manjira, Honorary Secretary Sijo Ponu, Joint Secretary Pradap Varki, and our Treasurer C.M. Manoj Kumar, past presidents of TMA. Many of the past presidents are present here, Mr. V.P. Joseph and so on, Managing Committee members, members of TMA, students, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Extremely delighted to welcome all of you to this webinar of TMA, remastering digital relationship with the customers. May I request members, please mute your sound. Okay, may I request once again, please mute your sound. You can open up your sound during the question and answer session. It is not easy to get speakers like Jag for our management talks. Today he is sitting in Boston, USA. Due to the COVID, we are organizing all our meeting in a virtual mode. Maybe it is the advantage. That's why we are able to get eminent speakers like Jag. So far, we have organized around 17 webinars after the novel coronavirus badly hit us. Now the world is under the grip of coronavirus. Most of the companies are working remotely, or we can say work from home and studying from home is the new normal. Now our state is facing not only the COVID issue, but also today we can see due to the heavy rain, we are the threat of flood again. The landslide happened in Munnar. We are joining the grief of the families who lost their dear and near ones. Anyway, we have to drive our companies amidst of all this mishap. Last month, we had a program how to create inbound marketing strategy, a half-day training session. The participants given an excellent feedback about the program. Apart from our regular guest lectures, we in the committee trying to make a lot of management development program for the benefit of our members. In this month, we are organizing a faculty development program from 24th August to 28th. It is a 5-day program. This is a certificate program on case analysis and discussions. This program purely on case study method of teaching. In the new education system, we have more importance to the case study method of teaching. Even in many professional courses, this is prevalent. Okay. We are doing this program in association with Chennai-based Case Research Society of India. It is a 5-day program with 2 hours in a day between 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Details of the program will be circulated to you soon. And also, I have a good news to share with you. The IMA, All India Management Association, nominated 8 of its top performers into the IMA Council. With a great pleasure, I would like to inform you that TMA is one among that performers, and we have nominated to IMA Council. I take this opportunity, to thank all our past presidents, members, MC members for their support and encouragement and guidance for this great achievement. This will further help or augment the management movement in this part of this country. In TMA, it is our endeavor and disseminate and update our members about the best management practices prevailing across the country as well across the globe by bringing eminent personalities from industry. Today we are fortunate to have the presence of our chief guest, none other than Engineer Jag Krishnan, Vice President and Chief Digital Officer, Bose Corporation USA. It is not easy to get personalities like Jag. When we contacted him through our CEO, Engineer Francis George, he readily accepted our invitation and agrees to share his rich experience and knowledge with us. On behalf of TMA and all participants here, I extend a warm welcome, Engineer Jag Krishnan, Vice President of Chief Digital Officers, Bose Corporation USA. We are all eagerly waiting to hear from you, especially the experiences Bose Corporation, how you digitally transform the Bose. I also take this opportunity to welcome all our past presidents, office bearers, management committee members, students, and invited guests to this webinar. I am not standing in between you and Jag. With this, I wish everyone a very fruitful session ahead, remastering digital relationship with the customer. Wish you a very fruitful session ahead. Thank you very much. Or to Engineer Francis George for a brief introduction of our chief guest, Jag Krishnan. Or to Francis.
Thank you, Sony. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone, depending on which part of the world you are in. My name is Francis George. I'm the CEO of Thrissur Management Association, TMA in short. My duty here is to introduce the speaker for tonight, Mr. Jag Krishnan. Jag's full name is Jagdish Krishnan. His colleagues call him Jag in short. Those who are close to him call him Jaggi. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to take the liberty to use that. Excuse me. Call him Jaggi. I've known Jaggi for a long time, for many years. Right from the day we met in Pune. We both were working in Pune at that point of time. Right from that day, I could see the ambitious. He was a very ambitious person, very aspirational, very dynamic. When he was on his first job, which was at Pratni Computer Services in Pune itself, he had a vision of doing MS in computer science from a reputed place. So he applied in many different places. Oxford University was really where he wanted to get into. He worked hard for it. He applied at Oxford. Thousands appeared for the process, for the admission process. A handful got selected, I think 12 or 16 or something like that. And he was one of them. And he was the only one selected from India. So that's the beginning stages of his career. After that, he went to the US. He worked in US in a couple of other organizations. We happened to meet again in around 2006 or 2007. He was working for Deloitte, which is one of the big four consulting firms at that point of time. He used to consult for Citibank in Wall Street at New York. I was consulting for Oracle at that point of time, working in the same office, Citibank office. So we had an interaction at that point of time also. He worked for Deloitte for a couple of years. I think it was in 2007 that he joined Bose. And till now, until this day, he has been soon. All the best for him. All the best to him for that. During the 13 years that he was at Bose, he has done wonders in Bose. As a result of the work, he has transformed the company from a research-based hardware company to a next-generation digital company. And these are not my words. I mean, this is, I'm quoting Mr. Bob Mariska, who is the chairman of Bose. It's his words. Jag has helped redefine the operating model and the business model at Bose. He helped leverage the new age technologies like Internet of Things, IoT, Amazon Web Services Cloud, artificial intelligence, and several other suite, several other technologies in the technology suite. And he modeled a system which can predict a customer's purchase with an accuracy of 92%, depending on the behavior, his clicks and his behavior, online behavior. That prediction is 92% accurate. And there are a lot of other things also that he's achieved. I don't want to spend time going into the details for all those. He's going to cover some of those things during the course of today's webinar. The latest feather in his cap is that he has been nominated and he is a finalist for the 2020 Boston CIO Orbi Awards in the global, for the CIO of the Year award in the global category. Now that's something really special. He is an active contributor in the startup space. He is associated with a startup accelerator based in Boston. He has been recognized for mentoring and supporting the startup community in and around Boston. He was recognized by the ex-governor of Massachusetts for his work related to that. He is a speaker at various forums, including MIT and Harvard, both of which are based, of course, in Boston, in his hometown. Let me stop here and let Jaggi take over from here. Over to you, Jack.
Yeah, check.
Yeah.
Now his screen is obvious.
All right.
Meanwhile, I recognize the presence of President of Malappuram Management Association, Mr. Salam. Yeah, over to Jaggi.
All right. Thank you very much, Francis. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
we can.
Right. Let me do a share screen real quick. And once you can let me know if you're able to see it. You can give me a thumbs up if you can see it.
Yes.
All right. Outstanding. All right. Good evening to all of you. Good morning for folks wherever you're joining. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all this evening. Thank you, Francis and Sony, for the warm introduction. It is a little strange to hear your own, call it accomplishments, and we go back and forth saying that, I didn't do anything that special. It was this, as long as you're having fun, it's a great kind of accomplishments for the company that you're working for or the outcomes that you want to actually create. First of all, I will echo a little bit of what Sony's stated. I hope you're all staying safe. These are unprecedented times that we live in and having to adapt to a new way of life. I think when Francis asked me to speak about a topic that would be insightful for the great business leaders such as yourself, I could not find any other topic that is more relevant than the disruption caused by digital platforms. This digital disruption may not be as abrupt or chaotic as the pandemic we are facing right now, but it is changing the business landscape as I see it. So in the next 30 minutes, what I hope to talk about digital transformation is at least give you a context and definition of what it means, because it means different things to different people. Digital transformation is obviously an overused word, so I will get into a little bit of the definition. How to reimagine the experience with your customers. I think that's an important one, because if you're not able to create that enduring relationship with your customers that continues to build on the desirability of the product or service that you are providing, your business will slowly start becoming irrelevant. And finally, I will leave you with some insights and data on how to think about it, what I have seen in the industry, my own experience at Bose. So that's what we will spend the next 30 minutes probably talking about. We will have time for questions at the end of the session, but during the session, if you feel a strong urge to ask a question, as Sony said, please leverage the chat window. And Francis has helped me. Francis has told me that he would help me with asking the questions if you want to actually ask through the presentation. All right. With that, I will let me talk through this. So, I think this is an important one to set the stage. it says the physical world is constrained and converges to finite solution, and the digital world expands and diverges to infinite possibilities. I'll give you a little bit of a story. I mean, think about, a bank in India or Kerala, like Dhanlakshmi Bank. You can imagine, I'm just using the name just as an example. You can imagine if you have to, create a bank, you have to reach a number of customers. You have to think about what kind of services you would provide them, whether it is loan, whether it is other financial services, the amount of time it will take if you're really thinking in a physical way to reach the number of customers, geographies you want to reach, services you want to provide, how much you want to actually scale. And on the contrary, take a look at a digital world, which is a digital platform, and that can really get to infinite possibilities. And you might wonder, what's an example? I mean, I just said Dhanlakshmi Bank. You can take another, you might have heard a company called as, it used to be called Alipay, and it is now called as Ant Financial. It's out of China. And within a matter of 7 or 8 years, they have close to 563 million customers worldwide, close to a valuation of $150 billion. And if you were in the US, it's, you would have heard a company called as Goldman Sachs. I mean, that it is more valuable, twice valuable than Goldman Sachs now, and 1/3 the employee base of Goldman Sachs. I think that's what really a platform could provide. Let's take a look at, really what the market shows. So you take a look at 2001, you would find a lot of big companies, Citigroup, Walmart, GE, Exxon. At least when I was growing up, these were the marquee, rock solid companies that kind of defined the economy of US. These were the brands that would never move. These were the big wigs in the world that took 50 years to be built and would never erase from the marketplace. And look at slowly during 2006 and 2011, the companies that are marked in green are all the companies that have got digital platform. Yeah, there was one, Microsoft in 2001. They probably reinvented themselves in 2006 or 2007. And by 2018, you have all the companies that are the most largest companies by market cap. All of them are digital companies. Now, this is little dated, 2018. 2020, all the companies that is shown at the bottom are all 1.5 trillion plus valuation today. Now, this is a US call it view. If you really expand it to other geographies, you will have Tencent, Alibaba, JD, all of them who have made it to the list. That's really the power of what a digital platform could do and how they actually can serve the customers. Well, let's look at some more data. If you really look at the attributes of what these companies really do, they grow exponentially. They are much more faster in how they actually get to customers. And, let's look at really, is it true or is it a fad? I think that would be one of the questions. I mean, these are some of the quotes, that people have compiled. The average half-life, meaning every company actually goes up, decays over a period of time. That has dropped from 30 years to 5 years between 1984 and 2014. 89% of the Fortune 500 companies are no longer in the list of 2014. The average lifespan of S&P 500 was 67 years in 1920s to 15 years. I could resonate to this because when I was here in United States, when I and Francis met, it used to be a big deal to have a BlackBerry. My kid who is 10 years old does not even remember what a BlackBerry is. That thing has come past, and it was a big company. It was a desirable thing to have as a mobile device, and it is no longer exist today. And in next 2 years, 40% of all S&P companies, 500 companies will disappear from the list. And these are real trends. It's happening. And, if you really look at, let's look at some more data. If you really look at market capital to $1 billion, it used to take 20 plus years to reach to $1 billion. Francis talked about when I was at Putney, our goal was Infosys was one of the companies who got to $1 billion after 20, 25 years. And, that was one of the milestones that a company could reach. Now you would see companies getting to $1 billion in an complete average of 3 to 6 years. You probably would have heard a company called as Waze. They do mapping so that it's like a GPS system that you could actually put on your mobile phone. 2007, it was, that just started. By 2011, I think 2006, they were 25 million. And by 2011, when Google acquired them, they were close to $1.1 billion. Airbnb was in 6 years got to $1 billion. They were 2011, they were 2 billion. Now they're close to $10 billion with probably, 1/10 the asset of Marriott and Hilton combined. So these are real trends, how companies are getting to $1 billion. Obviously, you could argue, if you are a financial person, you could argue that some of this valuation is way out of the world, like Snapchat getting to $0 to $10 billion in a matter of 3 years. But that just really shows the power of what the future holds for some of these digital companies. Some of this valuation are based on what it could really provide as a potential. So what you see, mostly you will see that these companies don't grow in a linear fashion. They do grow in an exponential fashion. The exponential fashion can be related to the number of customers it reaches. The exponential way is based on the services it provides. So it's the reach, it's the way it actually gets to providing those services. And that's what really helps these companies to grow much faster. And at the same time, they do not grow their expenses as they actually expand. That's the power of these platforms. So, what is really digital transformation? This is where I talk about, let's really understand what is it, because there are different things that people say. Basically, the transformation is you leverage the digital technology, whether it is the software, cloud. Now the cloud gives you infinite computation and storage and data. Combined, these three combined, it fundamentally changes how we operate and deliver value. 20 years back, if I had to start a bank, I had to think a lot more, and to get to a certain size, get to certain reach, it would take 15, 20 years. Now, you could do that within 2 years because you have got all the capabilities to reach to customers. You could make it a meaningful way to provide them the services. So it completely changes how we operate and deliver value to our customers. So that's really the digital transformation and the power of digital transformation. And I don't want to assume, or I don't want to share that it's only the tech companies. It's all the the Google, the Uber, and all of that. You will see that companies are fundamentally, it is all across the spectrum, that creates digital experience. And I will talk a little bit more about why that experience matters, because ultimately it gets down to they make me special. And how that experience really has a difference. Some of the companies digitize the core. I think Domino's Pizza is a great example in the United States. I mean, they have figured out every possible way you could actually get a pizza at a click of a button, whether it is on Twitter, whether it is on Instagram, you name it, and you will get the pizza ordered, your favorite pizza ordered with no friction. And whether the pizza, whether you like it or not, especially I can get it, after 2 beers, you may not even care about the taste of the pizza, but you would really want to get it friction-free, not having to go pick it up, be delivered to your home. So all of that is the traditional companies. It's not even technology companies alone. And obviously, the first to really changes the business model. If you look at Airbnb, I'll share that example. Airbnb is one of those that has got very minimum assets. The asset intensity is almost to nothing compared to Marriott, Hilton, and the whole, hospitality industry that actually has got huge real estates on their balance sheet. And they are completely disrupted and creating value in a fundamentally different way. So that's just a, example. And I hope by this time you might have really got a understanding of how digital can transform or disrupt So you can actually look at, hey, how it is disrupting, or you can look at, hey, is there an opportunity for how I run my business to really look at digital platforms as a way to reach more customers to provide the product and services. I think next I will get into, what kind of experience that you create with the customers and why is it important? Because that's the other key piece. You can have a platform, but the way you actually go and create those experience with the customers is another critical factor. So, 2016, when I went to China, this was my experience, that you had folks there that were asking money. You didn't have to know Chinese. You did not know what they were peddling for or asking money for. You just need a WeChat on your app, and I could actually pay the money. And I thought that was strange. I could go to a restaurant. I could understand I could go to a restaurant and have food without having to speak Chinese, and I could pay it. But what really purpose did it pay for these folks to pay it? And they are doing a lot more things. They now track how they spend their money. They create welfare programs for these folks because they track how they use the money that people give them. And they do social scoring so that they can really reintroduce them as contributing citizens back into the community. So none of this was conceived, but all of this was possible based on digitally technologies that's enabling to change human lives. So that's an example of an experience that I would say. Now, take a look at the companies on the left. These are all traditional companies. Coca-Cola, you actually drink from the bottle. Adidas, Samsung, P&G, these companies were there for the last 50, 100 years. And you look at the companies on the right. Many of the companies you may have heard, or some of them you may not even heard. I own a Tesla. Tesla actually used to sell the car on an internet. It was a complete brand new concept, but what really fascinated me was they know me by name. They reach out to me. They personalized the car for me. They understood what was important for me in the car, and they really built that relationship with me, rather than, if you've ever been in the US, you go to a dealership, the person actually, the sales guy goes 8 times inside. Buying a car in US is quite a painful experience. And then you have to haggle with them, for almost an hour and a half to get a car. And then you may not even know whether you got a good deal, whether I'm arguing for the MSRP price or invoice price and all of that. So that's what really is at the heart of it, because you are really creating that one-on-one relationship with the customers. Now, what's the consumer expectation? Are people ready? I've heard a lot of times people say, oh no, our consumers are not ready for it. They like that physical one-on-one conversation. They are not really ready for the digital relationship. At least the trend in US, Europe, and in Asia too, 67% of the consumers want to actually connect directly. I felt special when Tesla connected with me. When I had a problem on my car, they would send a mobile service to my home. That was unique for me, and I would put much more weightage on that one. 52% will switch brands because of lack of personalized communication. I used to like other cars. I have an interest for it, but just based on how they treat me, and if that personalized way of connection is not there, consumers would easily switch because they've got a choice. 7%, the lift in customers' purchase intent following a positive. If you do have a positive interaction with the brand, that they made that meaningful, they made those communication much more personal, it increases. And I will share some of those examples at Bose, what we did and what was the impact of that when we actually implemented. These are not fad, these are real, and these have got meaningful results associated with these. Now, take a look at the purchase trends. It clearly, what you see is that 13% was of total retail was e-commerce. Now you might see 13% is not that big, but that accounted for 50% of the overall retail growth, at least in the US. I mean, this is a US chart, and what we are expecting after post-COVID is this is going to be in the up 80s. That people are really trying to buy everything online. It is getting more and more friction-free experience, and everybody is, moving more towards it. A pandemic like what we are experiencing just becomes a much higher burning platform. Now, you will see that 50% of everyone are digital buyers. Again, this is going to be up 90% as they expect when the Thanksgiving comes up this November. You're going to see more and more people only buying through digital means. This used to be a big deal. They would actually talk about, this is a chart for it's a projection from Marketer from 2017 to 2021. They would say that a very linear growth in this. I think things like pandemic, other things is going to increase this. I'm going to take an example of, who would have thought that we will be having a Zoom meeting to talk about trends? It has flattened the world in how people could connect from anywhere and have an experience. I also see that a big trend would be completely doing online education. I think it's going to completely tip over its head in how education will be imparted for children in the coming years. Next 5 to 8 years, that's going to redefine that industry very much. Now, you could imagine, why is this catching on? Direct to consumer is not new, but one of the reasons you will see is that you look at the traditional retailers on the left-hand side, it goes to manufacturer, to wholesaler, to distributor, and every step of the way, you are losing margin. You lose 4 to 5% of margin, and by the time a $5 t-shirt costs $25 when it gets to consumer. And by the way, if you ever have to get the feedback from the consumer, it's a total consumer feedback. That loop is very long and it's very painful. Whereas direct to consumer, manufactured to directly to consumer, and you're taking everything away from it. And if you look at the dimensions of what are the benefits, take a look at the dimensions. I mean, I won't go into all the detail, but loyalty, you directly know, access to the customer. I will know Francis better when I engage with him directly. I could get direct feedback from him. The speed to market, I mean, pricing. Amazon is able to do dynamic pricing based on who needs it, when you need it. If you look at Uber, I think people always said that it is cheaper than taxi. And then you have surge pricing. So when demand is high, you can ask for more price and customers are willing to pay. So all of the things on the left-hand side is what you have as your capability if you go directly to consumers. And one, you can go directly to consumer. Two, you're able to serve them with your product and services. Three, you can improve your services to them. And these are not for big brands. These are, you could start your own small business and you may want to think about how to make it relevant for your consumers. I will skip through this. What this is just saying is that, if you are still thinking, this is a fad, this is going to go away, it is, it's not the case. You are seeing tons of, venture capitalist firm and investment banks that is actually investing money left and right in this, because it's not a moving fad. It's really, there are tons of companies that's coming. So it's going to be a crowded environment. So you need to have much better marketing techniques to stand yourself out. But at the same time, there is money that's been poured into this. So this is not going to go away. This is not a moving fad. It is going to stay. Now, I will talk a little bit about, Bose, because, you might say, okay, have you applied this in real world? So a little bit background and history about Bose. It was started in 1950 by Dr. Bose, who was an MIT grad student. He was very unhappy with the audio system that he could find in the market. So he said that I need to go and create one, because if you can't really find a good one, you should invent one. So that was the genesis of the company. You will see the right-hand side picture during our fall weather. That's the picture. It's 10,000 employees, 4 billion in annual sales. We do everything from research through service. Now, 50 years back, you look at all our products. I mean, we had home entertainment products. We have noise reduction technology. We are the OEM for automotive. We have got professional products which goes into stadiums. So Mecca and Sistine Chapel, all have got Bose speakers in those stadiums. All of this had been traditionally a hardware product. It was a SKU, a stock unit that was, you manufacture it, you put it in your warehouse, and then you sell it. There was nothing smart about it. These were all dumb hardware products. Over the last few years, we have been really changing how to convert these hardware products into software products. I will talk a little bit about those particular products and even share some of the examples of that. So this is just an example of what was happening. You could see that on the right-hand side, Amazon was doing very well on online sales. Bose was doing better than some of the captive other wholesalers like Best Buy and Walmart. But what this wanted to show was we were not really fully capitalizing the power of what Bose.xx could do. So we really spent some time to figuring out, okay, how would we re-engage with our customers? Because it's just not a transaction. If it was just a transaction, I go click buy. Amazon does that very well. I don't think we want to compete on that. It is, what do I go more than click buy? What more can you provide me online that will make me want to come to Bose.com? That's what really the question was. And we were really, that was the remastering part of the relationship with customers. Because if it was just go click buy, Amazon does it well. It makes it friction and convenience an easy part, table stakes. I get it the next day. I don't think that's what we want to compete with. What we want to compete is, why do people care to come to Bose.xx? So couple of strategy to drive that customer relationship. First was customization. I have a customized speakers that I can go in, I can set my colors, I can go and get it in 2 to 3 weeks, and that's an expression of me, and that people pay premium for those because it's more $100 more, but that's what I designed. So I want my son or daughter to design my own headphones for my birthday. So that was one of the things that we did. Bose frames, this is our glasses that actually does a lot more than just glasses. It's sunglasses, but it also actually has got the best acoustic sound that if I wear it, my neighbor or my person who is sitting 6 feet away will not be able to hear what I'm listening to. So it creates a sound, call it boundary around you. And I will show a little video about that it does other things too. But this again, once you put software into it, what are the different vectors that you can do with glasses completely changes. You do try on. So, for glasses, the first thing is that when I wear it, I should look good. I think Francis used to call it the glamour, right? So if you want to really look good on glasses, you should be able to see how I look, not somebody else look. That's why we are giving them mechanisms in which you actually take an app, you're able to see how you look, and you can do that. And I'll show a little video of that, and then I'll get to the sleep buds. So let me share, just to give you an example.
Yes. Yeah, now video is done.
Breakfast just got more accessible thanks to Bose. I'm Casio right, and I'm blind. And now when I go to breakfast, I don't have to stop debating politics with my husband to order my meal. I can just listen to my Bose frames read the menu for me. Take a picture, voiceover reads aloud in my Bose frames, and I'm off and running. If I want to reread things 2 or 3 times, or change my mind, or forget what I wanted, no problem. It's right there. If I want to walk through the streets of my hometown and know that the kids giggling off to my right are playing a game of tag, now I know. If I want to window shop or browse through glass cases full of jewelry that I can't touch, no problem. I connect to Ira, and it describes everything in the case. It describes what she sees through the window so that I can shop just like anybody else. As a kid, I used to dream of going into a bookstore, picking up any book and reading, not waiting for somebody to provide it to me in braille or audio.
Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
All right. So, that was a video of what I wanted to actually share was that frames was something that we built. We did not build that for the use case of this person that you saw in the video was blind. And she uses that now, was one of the vectors that we found that could really help people who are blind. That was not why we built the sun frames. The frames was built for people to enjoy the glasses. They are outdoor and music. That was the main purpose. But there are various now possibilities with that. We are now planning to use that in the car. to improve safety so that I can speak with the passenger at the back. I don't have to turn my head. I don't have to look at the screen. I can do a lot more things. Similarly, this is a Bose sleeping buds. So I wear the sleeping bud. This used to be a pure hardware device that fits in your ear. And this now can really, with software, this can really figure out how you sleep. It can entrain your heart. So based on your heart rhythm, I can really help you sleep much faster. If I can really bring down your beats per minute, and we do based on a music algorithm. So it's really based on music algorithm that we can figure out how your heart beats. And if we can really slow down your heart breathing so that you're out of anxiety and things like that, you can get to sleep faster. All these things are much more possible. And when I said sleep-buds on Indiegogo, Indiegogo is a crowdsourcing site. We did not, use that first, but it was a great platform for us to reach to new customers to really see not only the price elasticity, but also how do customers actually preview this particular product. So these are a couple of quick examples on how we go and redefine with our customers, whether it is the product or the service. And that's what gives you a little bit about how we thought about it. Some of the customer experience tactics, you can see it. You can do a lot more personalization. How I treat Sony or how I treat Francis would be very different of what email comes to me, what mobile messages comes to me. So it's based on my preference. You can leverage digitally to curate and educate, because if you are using a sleep buds, people would not have known Bose for sleep buds. They know that for speakers, not for something that you can put in your ear and you can sleep well. You don't have to snore and things of that nature. So you could do a lot more education digitally rather than giving it to a third-party person who has to tell you what it does. Experimentation. You can experiment with certain products and say that, whether this works or not, or whether you want to change before you invest millions of dollars in manufacturing. So that's the benefit of trying certain things. And for us, the results, the direct-to-consumer sales grew 166%. We brought in 7 million net new customers with those. Our lifetime value of a customer, we could actually get to at least 98% predictability as to when the next purchase is going to be. All of this is because you're able to collect the right data, you're able to personalize it, and you're able to actually make those meaningful connections rather than a shotgun approach. Meaning, for me, all customers are the same. Let me send a big mass email media versus doing it very much fine-tuned to the individual. That's why the one-on-one relationship is pretty key. Let me give a little bit, and then I'm going to pause for questions. How can you think differently? Because you might say, okay, I heard all of this, so what can I do? How can I think? How do I really look at how to solve this? This is just a framework. You can ignore the numbers here. These are not accurate, but what this really framework is a 2x2. You have got a product. That product can be a financial product. That product can be a manufactured product. It can be any product that you serve to customers, and what experience you want to give to customers. Like, how do you want your customers to experience it? You can put a 2x2 and really figure out, what is the unique experience that you're offering. If you look at the left-hand column of value and convenience, Amazon does that, right? Low prices, high convenience, I can return, cash on delivery. Those things are simple. But what is it that you want to give unique for your product and service is how you want to think. It can be simple as you have a business, bakery business, and you may want to think, what could you do differently? So this is a framework we have used. And then in big companies, you have to look at where to play. What's your existing market? What are your new market and adjacent market and new market? And on the x-axis, you have got existing products, incremental products, and new products. Not all products have to meet the new direct-to-consumers. You can take a different approach. Not everything that has made you successful is bad. You may have to adapt to what you have to do different. And that's the kind of thing you can think about as a framework of where to play and how to win. Because winning for each of the product might be different based on geography, based on your customer set. So you don't have to have your web commerce similar to your physical. and you can use different techniques to really think differently about it. So that's just some practical things to think about this. I will leave you with this. It's a innovation and disruption can scuttle very successful businesses. They don't come in big waves like the pandemic. It won't come on January or February, shut down the whole business. It always comes in small doses. These are small changes, but when it actually gets added up, those changes can be quite an irrepressible force. So what we have to be ready is to expect that change and disruption that will come more frequently. I mean, you look at all the companies of the right-hand side, almost all of them have at some point in time have either been bankrupt or having to be restructured, and they don't no longer exist. But that's because they just failed to pick up that they have to adapt and change. And a big part of that is, how do you really connect with those customers in a new and different way is what is really important. So I will end with, I think you would have probably got an understanding of what does a physical world and how it can be constrained. And if you can think about it differently and your aperture differently on how to re-engage with your customers, I think that digital world can be quite, open up the art of the possible, whether it is to grow your business, whether it is to make your business relevant, or whether it is to really figure out a better way to provide your product and services. So hopefully you might have got this for the last 30 minutes, convinced you on some of the things of why digital platforms are important and what it has done, how you may want to really re-engage with your customers and re-establish those experience, and kind of what you can think about it. So with that, I'm going to stop and turn it over for questions that you have.
Thank you, Jag. So nice of you revealing all the secrets how to digitally transform. Really wonderful. We have a few questions. I think we are about to reach 7:30. It is not easy to get personalities like Jag. So shall we extend some more time? Those who want to leave by 7:30, they can do so. Francis, are you starting the questions? I will start with one question from Vivek. How CRM and digital transformation can go together?
So, CRM is a technique. I will answer the CRM is a technique that you can use. So it's not, digital transformation, as I mentioned, has got multiple ways to think about it, how you can really recreate experience, how you can modernize your core infrastructure. But ultimately, if you're leveraging CRM to really reestablish in a different way how you want to manage that customers, it's a tool in the toolbox. So it's a technology tool that you can use it. But ultimately, I would ask as to what is the outcome that is going to change. The digital for me is not about technology. It's about what business outcome you want to actually get. And you can use a lot of tools to really reestablish that.
Next question is from Paul Matthews. Excellent question. Before going to the question, may I request all participants kindly give your feedback in the chat box. We have given the link in the chat box so that it will help us to do our program much better way. Paul Matthews, the question is, we all use tech every day in our programs in large organizations. I heard some very good points about driving value of tech by making the customer feel special. What might be a good place to start reading about how exponentially improve the digital experience?
Could you do the last question? What the question was, where can you start or what?
Yeah, what might be a good place to start reading about how to exponentially improve the digital experience?
Oh, I see. Okay, to read. I mean, there are various books. I think one of the book is called as Bold. It is by Peter Diamandis. It's a great book, I would say. it really gets to the world being flat and what is possible now versus what was not possible before. I mean, you can take inspiration. Those books are all, there are multiple books on digital transformation. If you look at it, I'll be happy to send a list to Francis and he could share that. There are practical ways what you can do within the company, and you can break it down. Where I would start is you may want to really think about, if you're working in a company, how much is employee experience matter? So you can really think about this as employee experience. Then you can really think about this as customer experience. So I can share a couple of books, back to Francis, and he could share that with you as a good place for you folks to start. Think about it. I think that's a great place, even to that somebody brought up that, as you read the books, you can invite other people to create that awareness and desireness to change.
Shall we move to the next question? It's from Mr. Hadikesh. Again, an excellent question. How do you evaluate the demand for commercial spaces in third world countries while they are going into digital transformation? Here, how do you evaluate the demand for commercial spaces in third world countries while they are going into digital transformation?
If I interpret the question, let me answer it that way. And if it is different, please let me know. I think if your question is, what does the role of commercial retail space play if you're really transforming digitally? If that's your question, I think that's redefining now more than ever before. After COVID, it has become a absolutely a critical must for all the companies to really look at where do they even take commercial physical space. Now, before COVID itself, you saw retail spaces being more as a showroom, places where people have to absolutely touch and feel. You look at Microsoft now after COVID, they have shut down all their retail stores, at least in the United States, with only 2 stores in the entire United States, and everything to be served through digital. So the role of commercial spaces there is, answer they are saying is, they don't have a place where they want to open up retail stores and consume all of that money, lock in all of that money in that space. Now, you might have to find a hybrid in a third world country where people still want to have that touch and feel experience. So you may want to think about that as to what role that it plays. And so in some cases, you may want to have that physical space where people can see, trust. Because if I say I open a bank tomorrow, which is only digitally available, I don't think people will come back with their money and say, I'm going to deposit, because they might think that you will just vanish. So that's something you may have to evaluate. And it might not be, I have to open 20 locations every year. It might be, I might have to have 1 location or 2 locations that serves the purpose of instilling confidence. So if I understood your question, that, that's how I interpreted it. But if it is something else, please let me know.
Thank you, Jack. We'll move to the next question. It's from Ranjita. What do you see as a focus area for audio electronics and its integration with the digital platforms? Area for audio electronics and integration with the digital to overcome today's challenges.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that, I can probably talk about that for an hour, because, that whole audio in the internet has completely, call it, disrupted the whole marketplace. I will start by saying that being able to really have good sound is still a problem that you need to solve. That's in our room. How do I play it? But you will see a lot more sources moving into the digital side. You look at Pandora, Savan, all the Spotify, all of these solutions are really completely changing. Now you can get high fidelity sound on the audio side, but you still need a last mile device to play this very well. The other thing that we are seeing from a pure disruption, I will mention this, is VPA. VPA is voice. So you have heard about Alexa, Google. Now you can talk to them, or Siri in Apple. Virtual, voice personal assistant has become much more prevalent. I think it's going to continue as a modality, just like touch became a modality introduced by Apple in 2007. Voice became a modality introduced by Amazon probably in 2014 and 2015. you will get more and more voice as a modality. That won't replace the need to hear good music at your home. You still need to make sure that that audio needs to be there. And so I don't see any time the speakers going away or being able to listen to good music in the car going away. But how it plays with other big platforms and media is definitely a big trend. I mean, you can see that even in the video production with Netflix and Amazon Prime, more movies are released there than the traditional ways. So that's going to be a continuing trend as these things kind of get disrupted.
Thank you. Next is from Ms. Bobby from ISAF. Thank you for sharing your experience, Jag. My question is, how digital experience can available to Indians, mass populations who lives in rural areas?
I have my own view. I was looking at some of the companies that are actually catching up. There is a cosmetic company called as Naira that was started.
We are losing in between your sound.
Oh,
yeah, now it's okay.
All right. I am saying that you are finding more and more, digital companies coming up. I think predominantly for two reasons. I think in India has got a much bigger opportunity because, you have leapfrogged from not having internet to 5G. And as the mobile infrastructure becomes really better in the third world countries in general, doesn't mean just India, I'm talking Africa and other places, you're seeing a much better leverage of technology in those countries. I mean, look at Taiwan. I mean, there are countries that are leveraging technology because the basic infrastructure is improving. How you go to market, there is a level of education that is important, but companies are doing it. I mean, Flipkart is a great example that came from nowhere and have really, gone big bounds in India. There is a mattress company in India that is now selling mattress online that people can actually buy it, they can try it, and they can return it. I'm not saying that there aren't challenges from your logistics, being able to do the supply chain part, but the technology is becoming low and low barrier to entry. If you have 3G, 4G, and 5G, as you don't need the hard internet, you are getting more and more easier to do mobile shopping. I think mobile in India also has grown quite significantly. In fact, much more than United States and other places that do the traditional form of route. I mean, I have seen last time when I came there are a lot more people who use Paytm. And those are all the techniques that would leverage for you to do digital commerce in India.
Yeah, thank you. Jag, some of participants requested to give the name of the book which you mentioned.
Yep.
Kindly you put in the chat box later, or we will share with them in the email ID which they are giving in feedback form. Okay. Then next is from Mr. Hari. He heard about 8D in music today, something called pentatonics. Is that something Bose will be getting into?
Could you say that one more time?
8D in music today.
Yeah.
Something called.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got. Yeah. We don't. Bose is not in the content. In the content business. I mean, you have got a lot more audio mixing capabilities and codecs that's available. Now, we have our own challenges when you have to actually play audio and video from 4K perspective. So that's something we have to adapt to if you have to really play that music. So those things nowadays can be done digitally. But our focus, most of the focus now is in expanding in new areas of health, where we could really make people's life better, leveraging acoustics and sound. So the sleep buds was one of the areas that I just mentioned. But from a pure, understanding where the audio is going and how do we need to actually play those capabilities, we are still working on those things as part of our continuous evolution.
Okay. Next question is from CA Shajan Manjali from Doha. How construction companies can benefit through digital transformation? Any thoughts on this question?
It's a great, it's a great question. I am not a expert in the construction side, but I will, I will comment off the cuff on some of the things that I have seen. If you look at, I think Schindler was one of them. If you look at elevators in big, industrial locations, they have completely leveraged IoT to really figure out preventive maintenance, when those things need to be reserviced, when it needs to be changed, versus having to deploy manual labor to do a lot of those things. I think in construction in general, you can really look at that as an opportunity. As to, I think the way to think about it is, what are some of the things that takes much longer, it takes capital intensive, and are there ways to really look at digital means to really cut that short? Caterpillar was a big company that used to have huge machines that used to sit in sites for years, and they had no clue whether it was leveraged. They had no clue how it was working. They have completely transformed that business of really putting that multi-million-dollar equipment on the construction sites based on what those machines are telling them back as to what it needs. So are there vectors within construction? Sure, I have not studied detail, but I think those are some of the examples that could provide you to imagine what's possible. Obviously, all the companies are, at least many companies that I know, are looking at ways in how you actually do. I do know real estate is definitely one that is getting disrupted digitally.
Thank you. Francis, any questions? Otherwise, we'll wind up by a couple of questions remaining. Francis, any questions, please?
Just give me 1 second. I think there's one that has come to me separately. There's a question from Mr. Paul Wheel of ASAF. Digital transformation is also creating a lot of digital data. What is your opinion about the safety of the stored data?
Yeah,
and I'll add to that question. Is all that data being used now? I guess not, but yeah. So if you can throw some light on that.
That's a great question, by the way. I personally believe, so I think there was a question regarding security and privacy. Absolutely. Then there is a question regarding how, what that data is creating. So here is one I would say. When you collect the data, be very deliberate about what you want to actually collect. It's not that go get the data and then you can figure out what to do. I think it is going to be expensive. It's going to be not useful. So really have some understanding about what data you want to do. And the reason you have to do is you have to instrument those machines to be able to collect those relevant data for you. Now, I'll give you an example. Take Tesla. Tesla actually had 3G in those, and it used to it put in those because that's the only way that car could be updated. That car gets better with time. My 2011 Tesla got better on 2013 because it had more updates that was done through over the air. So that's why they have put an antenna on the car. Now, let me tell you a side benefit of that particular data of how they used it is they figured out earlier they were thinking about where to put the charging stations. Now they figured out based on how people drive, what is the most optimum place to put those charging stations. So that's one place where you can actually get the data and then figure out what needs to be done. But for most part, you have to really figure out how you're going to use the data. By the way, data is the new oil. That is a true fact. On the security and privacy, no question. Once you lose the trust with your customers, if the data is not managed well, you lose the trust with your customers forever. So you have to leverage a lot of technologies, which is available quite a bit, to really protect that data, because it's my data and I want to make sure that whoever is taking it is safeguarding it very, very carefully. By the way, that's a very good question.
Okay, thanks. We've gone over time, so those who want to drop out, feel free to drop. Jaggi, I know that you are okay with continuing a bit more. Others who are in a hurry, please feel free to drop at this point. There's another question. It's from Devarajan Ramachandran. In the digital world, is the customer becoming a commodity?
I don't think customers are commodity. I think customers' expectation has definitely changed, and that will be demanding. I don't think customers, demands were less before. They had less options. If I go to ICICI Bank and they make me wait for half an hour before I see somebody, they make me run around, go get me 8 different things, I will switch in a second to some other bank that can provide me a better service. I would not even blink twice. I really don't care. So my demands are definitely changing. My expectations are changing. I don't think customers will ever become a commodity. Customers are in the driving seat, and the business may have to figure out how to adapt to that. Now, what's becoming a commodity is more some of the basic expectation that really cost money. In United States, 2-day shipping is becoming a expectation. You don't have 2-day shipping. In fact, Amazon gives same-day shipping. You don't give same-day shipping, I'm not gonna shop with you. So that's becoming more table stakes, which used to be a big deal, right? You need to pack it, you need to do logistics, you need to send it. Your supply chain is getting more and more expensive. So the economics of a business has to work in those cases. And if your basket size is much smaller, that economics does not work. So you have to figure out ways how to meet those customer demands. In my view, customer is the king now. I switched car. I will never shop a car going to a car dealer now, because that is the most harrowing experience, being haggled by a sales guy. I have better ways of how I can get the car now, much better experience, much less stressful. So I would say it's the flip side. Customer is truly now becoming the king rather than having to deal with going to one place.
Thanks. That when you touched upon the car sales experience, that was one of my first experiences in the US. It was a mind-boggling experience. Mind-boggling, yes, with the negative connotation that you said, but back then there was no digital option. So yeah, you had to live with it. There's a question from Satya Sundar. What he asks is, what are the ways to ensure growth in highly priced premium segments? Is it more by managing expectations? Does digitization help to resist the price erosion? I guess it's a way of asking, how do you hold on to the value that you've created, right? All these premium products have created. How do you hold on to it digitally?
Yeah. I don't think doing digitally changes the pricing. In fact, first of all, it is the most economic channel. If you remember the chart where I saw you have to go from the main manufacturer to a dealer, distributor, wholesale, warehouse. I mean, that's a whole big supply chain that you can completely take it out. That does, that means it's much more economical. You get gross margin much more than any other person. That being said, I mean, I would give you an example of Tesla. I did not believe Tesla would be successful selling $100,000. I mean, which is much expensive car even in US standards. You get a very good car for $35,000, and you selling $90,000 car. It was a way to show the premium nature of a car and really engage with the customers. So they made it a luxury thing to connect with the customers. Now I will give you an example of Bose. 1964, when we started the company, 10 years later, we used to make wave radio for $500. Why would I buy a radio which I would get for $30, $40 for $500? That was the genesis that Dr. Bose said, I have to go to the customers directly to show why is this important and why is it valuable. People started buying $500 wave radio because they really believed that the music experience that they were getting from those products was outstanding. So this is where going directly to consumers, first of all, consumers are the king. They will decide whether they're willing to pay, and you are in a much better seat to keep the price elasticity on your side rather than making it a commodity. So I would say the other way around. Now, I would not say digital is the only mechanism. You may have to combine digital with other things based on your product and service. But the way I am seeing the trend is a lot more people are going directly. And they put physical only when they want to expand and scale later. They are putting physical when to even expand in other geographies and stuff.
Francis?
Francis, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. I guess that's all that I see. That's all the questions that I saw in the chat box. Anything from anybody else? Tony, do you see anything privately?
I think with this, we'll come to end of this session. Before going further, I think we have almost cleared almost all questions. Thanks, Jag, for an excellent session. Before wind up, may I request Honorary Secretary of Thrissur Management Association, Mr. Sijo Ponu, for proposed vote of thanks.
Hi, good evening. Am I audible?
Yes.
No, great. Not through Bose, but through Samsung. Hi, Jag.
Hi.
A lot of information, a lot of news from Francis. He's my co-brother. So even yesterday we were talking about your suspension and your Mercedes-Benz and all. Okay, very informative. It's nice hearing you. On behalf of course, on behalf of TMA, I would like to thank you for spending some couple of hours with us, right from preparing till the presentation. Thank you for doing an excellent job. Very simple. I know it is difficult for you to explain such a complex matter in such a simple fashion, but we loved it. Thank you. Thank you for your time, and well wishes, and be safe in US. Take care. I think things are back to normal over there, but still take care from us. Then of course I would like to thank all the MC members, TMA members, friends, and other participants who are here to listen to an excellent presentation. And of course, I like to thank Francis George for coordinating an excellent speaker, the right president who's behind this whole show. Thank you, everybody. And of course, the person who was technically helping us also. So I like to thank everybody who has spent a couple of hours with us. Thank you and have a great time. Good day and good night.
Thanks for listening, and it was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Sijo. Thank you, Jag, for being with us. Once again, thank all of you for sparing your precious time with the TMA.